Rome, Georgia, a small southern city where life often feels like it moves a little slower. Neighbors know each other by name, children play in safe streets, and the problems of the wider world sometimes feel far away. But on a summer morning in July 2024, that illusion of safety was shattered forever. The Patrick family lived in a modest two-story home on the outskirts of town. To their community, they were the picture of normalcy. Michael Patrick, a hard-working father, provided for his family with a quiet strength. Stephanie Patrick, his wife, was known for her kindness and her devotion to the church. And their daughter, 17-year-old Sarah Grace, seemed like a typical teenager, bright, expressive, and inseparable from her phone. But beneath the surface of that ordinary family portrait lay cracks that no one on the outside could see. Sarah Grace was born in 2007. From a young age, she displayed a curious mix of charm and intensity. Teachers described her as bright but often distracted, more interested in capturing attention than following rules. As she entered middle school, her personality seemed to split in two. On the outside, she was cheerful and social, but behind closed doors, Sarah battled frustrations that only grew as she became a teenager. The rise of social media provided Sarah with both an outlet and an escape. Platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube became her stage, and she loved to perform. She shared jokes, dance clips, and long-winded thoughts. But friends noticed something unsettling: her obsession with likes, comments, and shares. For Sarah, attention wasn't just validation. It was a form of oxygen. Without it, she seemed restless, even empty. Her parents, Stephanie and Michael, worried. They tried to set boundaries, limiting her screen time, enforcing rules about schoolwork, and pushing her toward more traditional activities. But those rules often turned into arguments. Neighbors recalled overhearing shouting matches late at night. No one could have predicted the horror that was to come. Those conflicts hinted at a storm building inside their home. On July 25, 2024, that storm finally erupted. The call to 911 was frantic, filled with confusion and panic. When officers arrived, they found a scene that even the most experienced among them struggled to process. Stephanie and Michael Patrick were dead. Their lives had been taken violently inside their own home. The evidence pointed to a crime of intention, not a robbery gone wrong, not a random act of violence. This was personal. And then came the most shocking revelation of all. The prime suspect was their own daughter. 17-year-old Sarah Grace Patrick was taken into custody. And just like that, the picture-perfect family portrait was replaced by a chilling mugshot, a teenager accused of murdering the very people who gave her life. At first, many refused to believe it. Neighbors who had known Sarah since she was a child couldn't reconcile the smiling girl they remembered with the accusations being read aloud. But as investigators dug deeper, they uncovered a disturbing trail. In the hours after the murders, Sarah's behavior raised immediate red flags. Instead of retreating into grief, she went online. She began contacting true crime creators, urging them to cover the case of her parents' deaths. In messages that later surfaced, she painted herself as a devastated daughter, desperate for answers and justice. But to investigators, this looked less like grief, and more like performance. And then came the most chilling detail. Those creators she reached out to. They didn't have to chase the story. Sarah was handing it to them, almost as though she wanted to see herself reflected in the same kind of true crime content she consumed. In August 2024, Sarah appeared in court for the first time. Cameras captured every moment, and what the public saw only deepened the mystery. At times, Sarah wept uncontrollably, burying her face in her hands, trembling with sobs. But just as quickly, her demeanor shifted. She would straighten her back, lift her chin, and let the faintest smile creep across her face. Was it guilt and grief? Or something darker? Satisfaction in the attention her case had generated. The prosecution wasted no time. They painted Sarah as cold, calculated, and manipulative. They argued that she had plotted the murders, waited for the right moment, and executed her parents without remorse. The motive, they suggested, was rooted in resentment, years of conflict, feelings of control, and perhaps an obsession with fame and notoriety. But the defense told a different story. They pointed to Sarah's mental health, suggesting she was a troubled young woman overwhelmed by pressures at home and online. They painted her as unstable, not cold-blooded, a child whose mind had fractured under the weight of her demons. Witness after witness took the stand. Friends described Sarah as fun, charismatic, even sweet at times. But others recalled darker sides, bursts of anger, a craving for attention, and an eerie fascination with crime and violence. Experts were brought in to analyze her behavior. Psychologists debated whether she was a narcissist, incapable of empathy, or a victim of her own mental illness. Some saw a teenager desperate for control, while others saw a girl playing the role of a grieving daughter for an audience that she knew was watching. And the audience was watching. Outside the courtroom, Sarah's case became a nationwide obsession. News channels ran headline after headline. Social media dissected her every expression. Clips of her smiling one moment and sobbing the next went viral. Memes, debates, and speculation spread like wildfire. Sarah Grace Patrick had become infamous, the center of the same kind of online spectacle she once craved. But while the internet obsessed, the community of Rome, Georgia, mourned. Stephanie and Michael Patrick were remembered in candlelight vigils, church services, and heartfelt tributes. Friends described Stephanie's laugh, Michael's generosity, and the love they poured into their daughter. Their absence left a hole that could never be filled. The contrast was haunting. On one side, a community grieved. On the other, the accused killer, their daughter, basked in the spotlight, whether intentionally or not. As the trial continued, one question remained at the center: why? Why would Sarah Grace Patrick kill her parents? Was it years of resentment boiling over? A mental break? A thirst for fame so twisted that she turned her own family tragedy into content? There are no easy answers. only a chilling reminder that evil does not always come from the shadows. Sometimes, it comes from within the walls of our own homes. Today, Sarah sits behind bars, awaiting her fate. Her case stands as both a tragedy and a warning, a story about the dangers of obsession, the cracks that can split a family apart, and the terrifying lengths some will go to be seen. Stephanie and Michael Patrick's lives were stolen far too soon. Their memory lives on in the hearts of those who loved them. And their story, no matter how sensationalized it becomes online, should never be forgotten as simply a headline or a viral clip. This is the case of Sarah Grace Patrick, a teenager who crossed an unthinkable line, and a community left to pick up the pieces of a nightmare they will never wake up from. What do you think drove Sarah to commit such a shocking act? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime stories.